This video we're going to go over the next exercise for Chapter 7, which is corridor modifications again for Ramp 4. This time we're going to look at the other side of the roadway. So in here we're going to go ahead and open up our corridors, Ramp 4, and our job number. So we're going to take a look at this one and open it up. This usually takes a minute to open it the first time. We'll go ahead and go into that file. Okay, once the file opens, you'll see that we've got our 2D information over here and our 3D information over here. And we're going to be working on this right side. And in this exercise, we're going to try to bring in the shoulder, bring out the curb, make the sidewalks meet up horizontally and vertically in this area. And so if we take a look at what we have here, come down into this location, you kind of see what we have going on. We've got a curb and gutter that comes down and meets this shoulder, so it stops here and comes out here, and then we've got a sidewalk that's integrated with the curb, and we need to bring this sidewalk back to here, maybe bring the curb down, the shoulder up. So we've got a little bit of work to do in here. We can handle it with parametric constraints and maybe even just changing the template a little bit for one of the sections to get these to line up. Okay. So let's take a look at the exercise. After we've opened up our file, we're going to go out and also open up our template library. Okay, so under the Open Roads Modeling, we're going to go to the Corridors area, and we're going to go to the Create Template, which is the template with the hammer underneath the Create area. Okay, when that first opens up, it's going to open it up to the default mo.itl unless you continued on from the last exercise, and then it may be the correct one. But we're going to go ahead and open up. So we'll do a file open. We're going to go out and locate. Should be in Data 7. If it doesn't open up there, you'll have to navigate to your Data 7 folder. And we want the J5P 3181.itl. And we'll open that up. And here we should have our job number, Ramp 4, Route 54, so you know you have the correct one. That's all we want to do is open that up. So we'll go ahead and close that now. Take a look at our next step. Next step in here, it says in the next few steps we're going to transition the Ramp 4 curb and gutter template to a template with a shoulder, grass buffer, and a sidewalk. So that's the area we're looking at here. We're going to transition this into this. So that's what we're doing here. And in step 3 here, we're going to go ahead and create a parametric constraint for the curb width and go out over a distance and match that shoulder width. So to do that, in the Ramp 4 template drop, we're going to adjust the right curb serve flow line point so that it has the following parametric constraints. We're going to add this label so that we can adjust the width of that curb and gutter. Okay. So to do that, we're going to go out here, and it says to grab the first one, so that's the one here with the curb and gutter on it. We're going to get the heads up tool, and we're going to the edit template drop. So inside here, we're looking at the right curb serve flow line. And that's what this is here. So we're going to double click on that point to open it up. And then we're looking at the constraint number 2, the horizontal. Right now it's at 2.5 foot width, and so we're going to keep it at that, but we're just going to give it a name here of right gutter width. By adding that in, now I can use a parametric constraint to override this 2.5 or do a transition. So I'll apply that, close it out, and click OK. So nothing's going to change out here, but now that point has a label. And that's step 4. It brings us down to select the Ramp 4 corridor grips, and in the heads up tools we're going to pick the corridor creation tool, which is the hammer tool, and then we're going to pick on parametric constraints. So over in our default window, we're going to left click on the grip for ramp 4, get the heads up tool, go to the corridor creation, and then down here towards the middle is the one with the large question mark. We've got to create parametric constraint. So here's the dialog for that. Looks like a lot of that is filled out for us, but we're going to double check to make sure that we've got it in there how we want it. So let's scroll down to step number 5. So we're looking at a start of 2 plus 40. Yours probably won't be automatically filled out, so we'll come in here and just do a 2 plus 40 and hit enter on that to lock it in. Goes to 2 plus 50. Enter on that to lock it in. We're adjusting the new right gutter width. So we're going to slide down here and we should find right gutter width. We'll pick that. The start value is the default value that it's finding in the template drop. And then the stop value is what we want it to be. So we're going to change that to 4. So we'll hit 4 and enter on that. And basically what that's going to do is over 10 foot, it's going to go from 2.5 foot width to 4 foot width, which is this point right here. If you look in your 3D window, that is your flow line, your curb flow line, gutter flow. That's going to go from 2.5 foot where it is now from that location out to 4 foot. So all we're going to do is just come out here and left click to accept everything we entered in the dialog. And then you should see that in here it kind of lines up right there. Alright, so we're going to hit F4 to close the tool. And the next step in here, we still had the same issue that we have in a note here that we had in an earlier exercise, that the current version of Open Roads Designer that we have, parametric constraints don't recognize station equations. So we'll want to double check that with what version you're doing these examples on. Okay, in step number 6 here, we're going to adjust the shoulder slope up in the template to match the gutter slope. Okay. So to do that, we're going to pick on the second ramp 4 template drop. We're going to open up the right concrete TO EOS point and adjust the slope constraint to a vector offset. For the parent points, we're going to choose the edge of pavement and basically the center line. So how it's set up right here is what we're going to do in there, and it's going to allow it to basically follow the slope of the roadway and come up, and it's going to actually meet up at this location. Okay, so to do that, we're going to modify this template drop. So we're going to left click on that last template drop, hit the edit template drop tool. Okay, and then the point that we're going to look at in here is that right concrete TO EOS. So we're on the right side. Here's the right concrete TO EOS. So we're going to double click that point. Okay, we're going to come out here. Right now it's set at a slope. So it's going from the center line out here down 2%. And what we're going to do is we're going to make it follow whatever slope is happening out here. Okay, which is what our first section does as well. So by changing this, we're matching what it's doing up in this area. So it's going to actually follow that slope. Okay, so we're going to change this to vector offset. We've got the concrete TCL, which is basically the same thing as an edge of pavement here. And then we're going to go look at the other edge of pavement as our parent 2. So you could get it from the drop down, or you can hit the little pick button and go select it. I'm going to hit this pick button. We're going to go out and choose left concrete TEOP. That's going to put it in the dialog. We're going to leave it at 0 so that it maintains this slope, whatever that slope happens to be. So if there's super elevation or anything in our file, this line may move up or down, but with a vector offset, the shoulder will also move up or down with that. Okay, so we have that put in there, so we'll go ahead and apply that. Close it out. We're clicking OK. This is not affecting our template library at all. This is only affecting what's in our DGN file. So we'll click OK, and this template will update and make that raise up to match what we have for the curb and gutter in that spot. Okay, so that's the first portion of this, is we've got it to raise up. And that was through step number 7. So we'll start here on step number 8. In this step, we're going to transition the sidewalk offset in to match the sidewalk behind the curb and gutter. So we've got the sidewalk here behind the curb and gutter, and we're going to take the shoulder and move it in. So as you can see in our drawing, that's the way it is currently. So we're going to have it come in to the same width as this, or the same distance, over a 10-foot distance. Okay, so we're going to come out here, and in part of this step 8, we're going to select the ramp 4 corridor grips and bring up the heads up tool. And in those tools, we're going to select the corridor creation or the hammer tool, and then we'll do a parametric constraint tool again. In the parametric constraint dialog, we're going to go with the defined dialogs that we have down here. You'll see that we're doing from 2 plus 50 to 2 plus 60. There is a label already assigned in our MoDOT templates to this particular width right in here for the inner buffer. And so that's already a label that has been created for that particular component. And our start value, we're going to be starting from this location right out in here, and we're going to say it's going to be a half of a foot, 6 inches, so it's going to roughly be back at the back of the curb. Okay, and then it's going to have a stop value of 2 foot. So it's going to go from the back of the curb, and then over 10 foot in this direction, it's going to move out to 2 foot distance. All right, and so that is done by coming out here again. You're applying this to the whole entire corridor. So we get the corridor grips, we get the corridor creation tools, and we're looking again at parametric constraint. Okay, in our parametric constraint, we're looking at 2 plus 50. So we'll put that in and hit enter. We're going to 2 plus 60. Put that in and hit enter. And then our constraint label, we're looking for the sidewalk inner buffer width. Okay, so we're going to slide on down. Sidewalk inner buffer width. So we only have sidewalk on one side. If we had it on both sides, there might be a left and a right. But in this case, there's only one side, so we don't have that in front of it. So we're doing sidewalk inner buffer width. So we'll pick that. So the default value is 2. So that's what this currently is right now. And we're going to say at the beginning of that, I want that to come back into 0.5 feet. So I'll do 0.5 and hit enter. And then if you watch this area, if you accept all the way through the values that we placed in there, it'll bring that back to the back of the curb. Okay, and that's a 10-foot distance there, half a foot there, and then 2 foot up in here. All right. So we'll slide down again. Step 9. In this step, we're going to transition the curb and gutter sidewalk down to match the sidewalk behind the shoulder. So instead of bringing the shoulder up to here, we're going to bring the curb and gutter down. It's actually more difficult to bring that down than bring the sidewalk just up as far as ORD goes, but we are going to do that. So in the first step, ramp 4 template drop. So in the first ramp 4 template drop, which is up here, we're going to look at the right sidewalk surface component, and we're going to insert a point. So we're going to do this similar to what we did in the last exercise. We're going to put a point in here. Right now, this point at the back of the curb, these points are basically merged together up here at the top. So you can't adjust one without adjusting the other. All right. So if we wanted to control the sidewalk by itself, we have to add in a point that is separate from that merged point, and then get rid of the point out of the sidewalk. And then that new point that we create, we're going to tie it to that location, the top of the curb, but as long as it's its own separate point, then we can adjust that sidewalk up and down. And then we'll probably have to go adjust our end conditions to look at other points throughout there, or perhaps this other right side to go back and look at that new point we created, so that when this moves up and down, this back one will move with it. So usually it's that point right there. We'll need to adjust to have it look at the new point instead of the top of the curb. Otherwise, when you slide this down, it's not going to move this point, and you'll have a large sloped sidewalk right through there. Not ADA compliant. So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to go out and hit F4 to get out of any tool. So come in here and hit F4, and we're going to take a look at this first section. So we're going to left click on that first section and do the edit template drop. Okay, so once that opens up, we're going to be taking a look at the right sidewalk surface component. So that's different than a point. That is this component here. So if we double click on it, just so you can see, right sidewalk surface. So that's the item that we're going to be working with. And what we want to do is right click on that and insert a point on the top of the right curb surf back, which is right there. So what it's having us do is right click on the component, insert a point. It's going to be a green point, and we're going to put it right here on the top of that curb surface back point. So now I've got 2 points on that same spot. Once you place that there, you right click, finish, and now you've got another point in your sidewalk. Now I'm going to double click on that new point that we just put in there, and we're going to rename it to right sidewalk TN. Okay, so we've got the green point there. We're going to double click on it. Doesn't have a name, so we're going to click on this open area spot here. Okay. Then we're going to give it a name, and it's going to be right RT underscore SWLK underscore T underscore IN. Alright, we'll go ahead and apply that. That gives it the name. This is take a look right here where it says member of right sidewalk surface. That's the only one that this is a member of. So we're going to go ahead and close that out. We're going to right click on top of that new point that we just created, and we're going to do delete point. And it says, what point do you want to delete? We're going to delete this right curb surf back. Now what we're doing is we're not deleting the point out completely. Okay, we're deleting that right curb surf back point from the sidewalk. So that point will still be part of your curb, but it will no longer be part of your sidewalk. And then this right sidewalk TN is going to look back at the right curb surf back. So this point will now have this point as a parent whenever we take a look at that. Okay, so we're going to be deleting the right curb surf back from the sidewalk. So we'll click on that one. It says, where do you want to delete it from? We want to delete it from the right sidewalk surface. So we'll click OK. Alright, so that's been deleted from that sidewalk. Okay, so once we've deleted that from the right sidewalk surface component and clicked OK, that's going to remove it from there. And that note in there is what I was just referring to. And then it says, right click on the right sidewalk TN and add the following horizontal and vertical constraints. You could right click on them and add them. That's what this is right here. Right click, and then you can add constraints to the points. What I like to do is double click on those points and pick the right sidewalk TN. But you can also right click on them and add them. We're going to add a vector offset as our constraint number 1. And then what we're going to do is we're going to have this value in here that's the default value of what that vertical offset is. And then we're going to give it a label. And so that label is going to allow us to control that distance. So if we need to bring it down, we can give it a value that brings it down. Alright, so that's our first one, vector offset left concrete TEOP. So we're going to hit the little pick button. We're going to come over here and say left concrete TEOP. And then the second parent is going to be that center line, concrete TCL. Okay, and that is over here to the right, concrete TCL. And then you can see it's got that what it actually is right now. So we've got a slope down here, and we're up here, so it's got a negative number going up. Just keep that in mind, that this is the slope it's going at right now, and it is negative up on that particular one. Then we're also going to give it a label here of sidewalk vertical offset. Okay, so we've got that in. We're going to go ahead and apply that side. And then we've got a constraint number 2. We're going to make it horizontal. And we're going to make that off the point we deleted, right curb surf back. So we're just going to basically just pick right over the top of the point that we're working with. So we'll hit the pick point. We'll pick the location where we're currently at, which gives us the right curb surf back. And at 0, we're right on top of it horizontally. Okay, so this is the point we're right on top. If we needed to move it out, we can put a constraint label down here to move that in and out if we wanted to. But we're going to go ahead and apply that. Okay, then we'll close that out. We'll slide on down here. In this step, we're actually going to modify the parent point of the right sidewalk T out point. Okay, this is what I was referring to earlier. This point that's out here now on the far right that deals with the sidewalk on this side, it's currently looking at that curb surf back. So we need to tell this right sidewalk T out to go look at that right sidewalk T in that we created. And that's what it's doing here. Both of our parents are going to change to that. So we're going to double click on this right sidewalk T out. Okay, and instead of this curb surf back, we're going to left click on the pick point, and we'll go select where that point was, and it's got 2 options now. So we'll pick the sidewalk T in, apply that. Same thing for the constraint number 2. We'll pick that right sidewalk T in, apply that. Okay, so now if that sidewalk moves down, if that point moves down, this one will go with it, and so will the end conditions. Okay, when you're done, apply everything, close everything, and click OK. So that we're done when editing the template drop. So what we're going to do here is we're going to slide on down. This is an example of what we just did here. We've got a right sidewalk T in and a right curb surf back at that one location, but they're not merged together any longer. Okay, and then we've got a right sidewalk T out as well. And then we've got a right sidewalk B in. All right. So that right sidewalk B in, we're going to need to make the changes on that as well, because it's looking here. It's looking at that old point also. So this was all created in one big shape, as you can see here. But this point here has a parent that's up here. And that used to be a different name. So we're going to go change that as well. So we're going to go back in and open up our template drop. All right, and we need to take a look at the sidewalk again. Right sidewalk B in. We'll double click on that one. And we're going to change our constraints, our parents, to the right sidewalk T in and apply each one, just like we did with the other one. Okay, then we can close that out and click OK. Alright, so now that point here and the point out there are both looking at our new point. Alright, next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the corridor grips for ramp 4. We should have a sidewalk vertical offset that we can control out here for the constraint label. So we're going to do that, left click in the window, kind of unselect everything, and then we're going to grab the grip for ramp 4. We're going to get the corridor creation tools or the hammer tool, and we're going to go back to parametric constraints. Okay, in this one we're going to go from 2 plus 10 and enter that in, and we're going to go to 2 plus 50 and enter that in. Okay, we're going to change our constraint label. We're going to slide down and we're going to pick on sidewalk vertical offset. So that's what we're looking for now, sidewalk vertical offset right here. And it gives us the default values. And so as you saw in the template, it was a negative number going up. And we're going to bring this thing down. So we're actually subtracting half a foot down along with another 0.03250. Okay, so on this one we're going from way up here to down here, and to get there we're doing a positive number, 0.0325. Okay, so this is going to be over a 40-foot distance. We're going to transition that down, so we'll accept the 2 plus 10, accept the 2 plus 50. Sidewalk vertical offset is what we're going to change, and we're going from the top of the curb to the top of the other sidewalk and accepting all the way through there. Okay. And that will bring that down to that sidewalk location. Okay, as you can see, the next few steps in here are optional if your sidewalks didn't match up here and your in condition didn't match up there. So there's a couple of different things you could do here towards the end if they didn't. Now, on the one that we did, this is the location it's referring to. If this portion of the sidewalk over here didn't line up quite right for whatever reason, there's things you can do to get that to fix itself, and also with the end condition. Now, ours and that we just did here in this exercise lands perfectly, so there's really not anything I need to do optional wise. But if you wanted to take a look at the optional portions of this, it's dealing with the sidewalk slope. So in this area, and you may run into this in your example or your exercise, that the slope of these two don't line up quite right. Now that could happen if for some reason the slope out in the curb and gutter area is a little bit different than what your slope of your pavement for the shoulder is, because right now this is being controlled by whatever the slope of your pavement is. So your slope out here of your pavement controls your shoulder, which is also coming out here and controlling what's happening with your sidewalk. So you may not get something that lands exactly perfect. So if you don't, here's the options to fix that. You've got a parametric constraint label, a sidewalk surface slope that you can change that slope of really either one that you want to in here. The way that the manual is doing it, we're looking at the ramp 4 corridor grips, going and doing a parametric constraint, and the parametric constraint dialog, we're going from 2 plus 40 to 2 plus 50. So on that one, 2 plus 50 is right in here. So this one we're going back 10 feet, and over that 10 feet we're going from a 1% to a 2% slope to get those to match, or whatever it takes to get that to match. It could be off by not a normal number, it could be off by a 0.5% or some other number. So your start and stop value, you would need to go out and just check that, and then you can get this to close up. And then once you get that to close up, sometimes you'll have where the outer buffer might need some tweaking as well, and you can go out and actually edit the template drop there and change in your slope that's coming off of that, and it's at 2%, and you can change it to 1% or whatnot to get that to close. So those are the things that you could do if you ran into those issues with them not matching exactly. Okay, I guess we got lucky on ours that it does match, so we don't have to do anything further, but it gives you a couple examples of things you could do if things weren't right. Okay. Okay, so that concludes this exercise, and we'll go on to the next exercise in the next video, which is dealing with modifications to ramp 4 and route 54.